Hello and welcome to ThisConnect.
I fell off my bike today in the morning and I wanted to talk about it.
I was going to tell you I have no idea what we're going to talk about. He hasn't told me. Now I do.
Have you ever had a feeling in the morning when you're getting ready for work saying, maybe today I don't want to ride the bike or I don't want to take the car? Have you had that feeling? And do you pay attention to these feelings?
100%. I mean, I have. There have been times when I've not listened, and
Give me an example.
things have happened. Actually, that was not to do with the bike. The one I can tell you most recently was a few years ago. I was doing some woodwork stuff at home. I was cutting up some. I had collected a whole bunch of chopped bamboos, and I wanted to make something out of it. So I was using an angle grinder. It's dangerous using an angle grinder. I shouldn't be using that to cut bamboo and all, but it was the quickest way for me to do it at that point. And I just had this feeling, and I had gloves on. I was wearing thick pants, everything, whatever I could do. I was wearing goggles, everything. But it was in the back of the house. It was not an organized place, and I was using a fairly powerful tool. And so I'd taken all the precautions. But throughout the whole thing, I was just like, and I continued until one point where I'd just gotten into the groove. So I was in this flow. So you would think you were the sweetest spot, and then just this little. I still have the glove. The blade went through the glove, so it must have been that far away from the finger.
Ooh.
And angle grinders are famous for
Yeah.
taking stuff off.
Yeah.
So that's the most recent one I can tell you. On bikes, there have been, even on cars, there have been times when I've just been like, should back off. Most of the times I've listened, but I can't recall anything right now. But this, as an instant, in an instant, I can remember this one.
Yeah, so today morning was like that. I started by looking out at the weather and it was this weird weather, okay. It's dark, but it's not raining. The ground is dry. And I checked my usual selection of weather apps. And they're all like light rain today. And, I check metadata, which is like the airport data. And the airport is all minus RA, minus SHRA, which means there's no serious rain coming. And I'm packing the raincoat and I have this feeling, there's some mistake. I'm making a mistake. And I don't know what it is. Is it the rain that is the mistake, not wearing the raincoat? That I don't know. And about 2 kilometers later, I take off from an intersection and I distinctly remember that all the vehicles started veering to the right because the left has gravel on it. And I'm on the multistrada, right? So I'm like, oh, it's clear. I open the throttle and an auto comes and hits the bike. He's jumping the light
This happened today.
in the morning.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So basically he tipped the bike over. He didn't fall at that point. He tipped the bike over.
Shumi, clearly you're okay. How's the bike? I'm sorry.
Bike is also okay. No, that's not the issue. Lots of interesting stuff happened today. So he hit the bike and it went like this. And at which point it's too heavy to hold on to. So I'm now just going to hurt myself. So I just let the bike go. And I basically walked up to the auto guy and he's like recoiling. I said, no, I'm not going to hit you. I'm just asking, why did you jump the traffic light? It's such a busy intersection. And he says it's the bus guy. He was on my case to jump the light and he wouldn't stop honking. You know how those bus guys use their air brakes, right? So he comes like, so he's just been doing that the whole time. So I said, okay, now come on, get out. So he's like, I said, no, help me pick up the damn bike. What is wrong with you? So we picked up the bike. I was in the middle of the intersection, obviously, lots of traffic around. So I started the bike, took it to the other side of the intersection, parked, looked it over. Okay, couple of scratches, no big deal. I got on the bike. And first Josh calls. Are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm okay. Everything okay? I said, yeah, I'm okay. I'm on the bike. I'll call you later. Oh, you're riding already? I said, yeah. I cut the call. I cut the call and Shivi calls. Are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm fine. Are you absolutely sure? Yeah. Where are you? I'm on the way to work. I'll see you in 10-15. You're absolutely okay. Yeah, I'm fine. I cut the call. Tanya calls. Are you okay?
Oh, you set up a system.
I am like, there is something happening today that I don't fully understand, right? She cut the call, Akash called. Turns out, my crash detection was on.
On what?
On the watch.
Oh.
It detected the crash successfully. And it sent SMSs to all of these people with location saying, crash has been detected, Shubhabrata Marmar, etc. This is the location. It called emergency services on my behalf. It has been sharing my location for the last 4 hours until I realized it was still sharing my location with emergency services. So then I had to cancel that part. And the funny part is, when I looked at the watch later, it said, see your medical ID. It says see or review your emergency contacts or whatever. It doesn't have an option but to say I am okay, we can stop doing the emergency now. But interesting thing is, I crashed, it figured it out, and it let a whole bunch of people know that something has happened, which obviously prompted me to call the phone number, which I thought was an incredible sequence of events to happen.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. The other thing that happened is it didn't change my mindset right after the crash. I didn't ride worse right after the crash. I wasn't nervous about it, which I thought was an interesting thing because normally you drop a bike that size, you're a little bit like, whoa, right? And I had like a good ride. But it reminded me of two things, okay? One, pay attention. If your intuition says today is not a good day to take a motorcycle, just don't take a motorcycle. And I've been on the wrong side of this before also. Today was one of those days where I didn't listen to it. I had this feeling. And if you have had something like this, leave us a comment, tell us what happened. The other is, there was a sequence of garbage trucks on my right, followed by a sequence of buses. And I was at the left edge of the road. I had no visibility on the right of this intersection. And it is such an easy mistake to make. Because you know what I said about, oh, there's gravel there and nobody's going to go there. And then everybody veers to the right. And I'm going for that place. And the one place where I have a huge blind spot right now is not behind me. It's here.
Right.
I couldn't see anything of what was going on here. And basically there was a bus and a couple of two-wheelers and the auto just appeared. I had no warning that it would be coming.
Correct.
Which I'd completely forgotten about. So today I learned something again.
Wow. When was the last time you fell off the bike? How long has it been?
Long time, actually.
Refreshers every now and then.
Long time. I think the last bike I dropped was also a multi-strada.
Okay.
The press bike.
Acha.
I think we were shooting off-road and I was making a U-turn and it was cambered or something. And then I touched the
Off-road
front
doesn't
brake.
count.
I touched the front brake and tipped. And it tipped like down. Like the handlebars lower than the wheels. No way I can lift that thing up by myself. No chance.
Off-road, that's normal. I mean, that doesn't count.
No, and I fell in front of a small chai shop. Like a rural road, dirt road. Chai shop, one customer having chai. So he's picking up the chai. There's a multi-strada coming. Multi-strada goes. Multi-strada falls. No reaction, no movement, nothing. So I basically stood next to the bike like this until somebody from the group realized, hey, he's not come back, something must have happened. And somebody came and helped me lift the bike up.
Okay.
I think that was the last time I dropped a bike.
Okay, so are we talking about falls today?
No, it was just that intuition wala feeling, the feeling that there's something today that is weird and that you shouldn't be doing something. And we often ignore it. And increasingly, the more, and as irrational as that sounds, the more I do this, the more I say, when that intuition kicks in and says, not today, then you just don't do it.
Yeah. I remember one of the instances of where it worked. So it was back in college days. And back then, Pune, was even less developed than it is today. And we used to have lots of sections there was practically no lighting. We used to have a lot of tree cover, so it used to be even darker because of that. So this is campsite, and we'd be out with friends at night. We'd be on bikes, and one of the friends, he had this RX. I remember riding it, and we were all riding together, and we were going through this one section, and I was just like, and it was dark, and you can imagine RX headlights worth what.
Correct.
And we were going, and I'm like, nah, something is off. Something is off. So I just slowed down a little bit, and I moved to the side. Instead of towards the divider, I moved towards the side of the road. And sure enough, there was a nice black buffalo right there in the middle of the road. It was like maybe, somewhere your brain perceived that there's extra darkness there. Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Which you don't have a conscious assessment of, but there is a subconscious assessment that says there's something there. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So this is something now over time I've realized that, I love Agatha Christie's and especially Hercule Poirot, right? And in that there's so much talk about the things that the mind observes, but is all background processing.
Correct.
So you have a sensation about something.
Correct.
And this is so true in so many cases that afterwards you realize that, yeah, you had a feeling maybe the signs were there. You just didn't see the signs as clearly.
Yeah.
So in the same sense, I would say there are the smaller things in terms of when you're driving, riding, you think the vehicle is not feeling okay. And
yeah. Yes.
It's so easy to just say, nahi, theek hai yaar.
Yes.
Right? Nahi, theek hai, we dekhenge, aage dekhenge. But when you stop, check, I mean, if there's nothing, you'll happily carry on in a better state of mind. But every now and then, it is something that you needed to take care of.
Yeah.
So those are the small things that I would listen to.
You should be aware that some machines are more sensitive than others.
Hmm.
And I think the older machines were a lot more like this. Like I had two RD350s. One of them was like so moody that it only ran well if I rode it.
Huh.
All of my friends said this is a crap bike. All of my friends.
But I've heard these stories. Yeah.
Yeah, all of my friends said this bike is crap. And it was. One of the con rods was off half a degree or something, so it would always have an issue. With me, it ran much. It ran. Everybody else, it would be like, oh, it's knocking, it's pinging, it's doing this, it's doing that, it won't run. And it was until I sold it to a friend, and friend got the engine rebuilt that they didn't discover that the con was off. Right.
Yeah.
Until then.
It's amazing, yeah. So this, you're talking about RD350s. I think it applies even to modern bikes, like what time of the day you start off. The feeling can be so different.
Yeah.
Like, you remember that one time I rode from Pune to Mumbai, and I was on the Busa, and I told you I felt like I was riding on this. I felt like there was a silver thread that the Busa rode all the way,
Yes.
all the way from Pune to Mumbai. It was like there was a course mapped for it. It rode through that. It glided over just beautifully over everything. I think it was a combination of temperature. It was, the weather was good. It was not like a cold time of the year, I remember. So it was cooler in the morning. I think the tire pressures, temperatures, everything was just, I mean, it was perfect. I couldn't have thought of it. I mean, it couldn't have been more beautiful than that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you come later in the day, same bike,
Yeah,
same
it's
everything,
not the same
and it's
anymore.
not the same feeling.
Yeah,
It's just not the same feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. I had one ride like that many years ago. I think 2000, 1999, 2000. I had a KB125. And there was a demo, and they forgot the laptop in the office, and I was the fastest rider. So they basically pulled me out of lunch in a restaurant. And they said, go back to the office right now, you need it, before cell phones. So no, you can't call me. Somebody ran from the office, found me, and they said, go back to the office. Went back. And there was a landline waiting for me. So I said, yes, I'm calling you from such and such place in Delhi. That laptop is over there. The demo is on that laptop. We've all reached, and we've forgotten the laptop. You have 20 minutes, and it's a significant distance in Delhi. It's going to sound illegal, so I'm not telling you exactly where to where, because it doesn't matter. So I got on the bike, and I left. And I rolled out of, my office was in Kalkaji, rolled out of Kalkaji, and I had a feeling saying nothing can happen today. Feeling. Nothing will happen today. And I rode really well, Kartik. Didn't jump a single traffic light, didn't cut anybody off, nobody honked at me, didn't cut lanes, nothing. I just rode really, really, really well. And I covered an incredible distance. When I reached there, that gentleman who called me was now on the same phone talking to somebody else, and I had reached.
Okay.
So basically, his colleague saw me coming, ran to him and said, Jayant, he's here. And Jayant was my boss, and Jayant was still on the phone. He's like, what do you mean he's here? I'm still on the phone. It was that quick.
Okay.
I had this feeling of enormous peace. It's like I did something special today. I'm not fully clear as to how I achieved it. But when I review, I review my rides, right? In my review, I couldn't find any mistakes. Like, did I had to brake suddenly to a stop because it turned yellow? No. Did I jump a red by mistake? No. Did I start off from a green in so much of a rush that somebody... No. Did I accelerate so hard that I felt like somebody else would perceive me as doing something stupid? No. It just was smooth and settled, and a very large distance in Delhi covered in a really short time with no sense of strain.
There's something very important that Shumi brought up. In the previous few ThisConnects, we have spoken about crash test ratings, and a lot of you have misconstrued or misunderstood. It could happen that we are saying star ratings are not important. The point we want to put an emphasis on is riding skill is the core around which everything else should fall. So star ratings are not a replacement for riding, in this case, driving skill. You need to have that, and this is a layer that wraps up around you. So what he's spoken about, reviewing his ride, should be an integral part of every one of us and our process towards becoming better riders and drivers.
Yep.
There's a Japanese system which is called point and call, right? So it's a system. So when he may be doing it just inside his head. A lot of us will not be able to do that. So being able to speak it out aloud, even if it is to ourselves,
It's just a note.
it makes a massive difference. You will realize a difference the next time you get into the car, onto the bike and ride. Your mind will have taken that tidbit, processed it, and found a way to work improve it or avoid it, whatever the need is at that point. So doing that should be a part of your journey in becoming a better rider and driver.
Correct.
That's a very good one, and I think it can be applied to everyday rides.
Yeah, and you can also forget things, right? For example, I know that big vehicles block view. I know this. I know this because at some point something has happened. It has blocked my view. I have reviewed the ride and said, oh, this incident happened because this thing was there, a tanker or a bus or a truck. And because of which I couldn't see, which led to two solutions. One, can you see under the vehicle and see what's happening? One solution. Second solution is there's a big vehicle there, there's a blind spot there. So therefore, I can't commit to overtaking this as normally as I would if it was a much smaller car.
Correct.
Over many years of riding, one has assumed that this has become a subconscious, integral part of the decision-making structure of riding. Today, I discovered that no. It is an evolving structure. I have obviously prioritized some other precept, lesson, whatever, over the idea that a large vehicle is a blind spot, so you have to be extra cautious. And today it caught me out. Luckily, I'm not injured or any such thing, but now I know that when I reviewed the ride today, when I came back and stopped in the office, and after everybody was done being concerned about it, thanks to all the SMSs that went out, the first thing I tried to remember was how did I put myself in that situation? And there were two things that happened. I remember so narrowly looking at that empty gravel patch and saying nobody's going to go there that my situational awareness went away. And it happened for a quarter of a second, but that was the critical quarter of the second.
Correct.
And second, even if I was situationally aware, my view here was blocked quite a bit, which means I should have been a lot more circumspect about opening the throttle and going into that space with such confidence. Because I had so much confidence until the bike went like this and I was like, oh, crap.
So, okay, I'm sorry. This is very stupid. And actually, you would have seen it. As motorcyclists, most people would have seen Rossi pre-race going and sitting next to his bike and talking to it. Talking to it,
he does.
right?
Yeah.
Have you given your bike a hug ever?
No, but I can't remember the last time I parked a bike and I didn't pat the seat or something or take a second look before and yeah, at that point I do talk to it.
Yeah. So I also do. I've given hugs. I've given kisses. I can't, like, every now and then I'll just be going, I'm like, nah, like, for me, the sense that they are inanimate, I don't know.
It's hard to reconcile, no?
I somehow I feel that there have been moments like, and it just feels like, or you get so well tuned with them, right? I don't know what it is. And in that also, I feel that it's a magic, right? That a machine that's been designed so well that it works with the human so well that it feels like an extension. That is special, right?
Yeah. And I hope all of you, at least for some time in your life, find a machine that feels like that extension of you, because I cannot describe. There's a magic to that feeling.
I'm getting goosebumps right here.
There's a magic to that feeling that it's indescribable.
So, like, there are so many times, and this will be in the times when things get tricky.
Yeah.
When you want that little bit of assistance.
Yeah.
When you want a little bit of help on your side, and you find it out of nowhere, like when you're least expecting it. Even with the Chotu Ignis, at times when there have been instances where we were out on the highway and unfamiliar road, but more than unfamiliar, what happened was the condition changed really quickly. Like, I had gravel in the corner and stuff like that. And I'm like, catching this might be a little tough because we're going fast around that bend. But just that being able to get the outcome from the vehicle that you were hoping for, not expecting, but hoping for, comes through. And in the Busa, I have a bigger example in which I have discussed with some of you. I frankly at times feel that Suzuki has some very simple level of traction control built into their electronics, which they don't want to talk about. Because it has happened to me. Like, I'm coming through a corner and then there's gravel and you're just like, no. So you've softened, you've braced everything, you've lightened yourself on the bike, everything you've done. And the bike just goes, and this has happened. So I still maintain it as a theory that somewhere there is some kind of system in there which just softens it out.
I never thought of you as a conspiracy theorist for traction control on Suzuki's, man.
Dude, because I can imagine it being there. I can imagine some form is there.
Well, this is the country that said, this car is 180 bhp, and when there was actually measured with some 300 bhp or something. No, this is the same, some Supra or something was like this, no? Undercommit and way over-deliver.
Yeah. Supra can go up to 1100 horsepower from stock.
With tuning. There was some car which is the first Evo or something like that. There's one of these cars, where apparently the rating was some pedestrian rating, and when they started saying, no, this is way too fast to be this like this.
Yeah. So
If you know what car that is, leave us a comment.
yeah, so I think that sense of becoming one with the machine, it happens.
Yeah, it happens.
And it's maybe the talking, maybe it's the syncing, or it's a good machine, but the feelings also expand with that.
Yeah. And this machines being sentient thing is as stupid a discussion as it is. It happens. There was a date I went for many years ago in early 2000s. And it wasn't a romantic date as much as there was a shy girl in the office, and I really wanted to know, hey, what's your scene? I mean, who are you and what do you do? And she said, can we go on your bike? And that day I had my other RD350, which was normally the non-temperamental RD350. That's the one that would start up and just run. Ferocia would just get up and run.
From then you've been having these names?
From the first RD350.
These
which
kind of names?
Farah was the first one. And Farah's name goes to everything. So that's why they're all FER.
Oh my God.
So Farah and Ferocia were my first two RD350s. Farah was the first bike with a proper name. Before that was 1372, which was my KB, and then 8023, which was my Kinetic, etc.
Okay.
So this girl, we went down. It had been raining. The seat was soaked through because it was like an old Rexine seat with cracks in it or whatever. So I said, it's kind of wet. I'm still trying to get her to a taxi, right? And she's like, no, it's fine. Don't worry. My house is not very far from where we're going. We'll be okay. So get on the bike, and I can smell petrol everywhere. And she doesn't know anything. Okay, so she's sitting on the back and she's listening to the RD350 noise, and she's saying stuff like, wow, this sounds very different and all that. And okay. And this, I put my hand under the carburetor and it comes off like fully wet, okay? And I smell it and it's all petrol and it's flooded, okay? So I was like, okay, now what do I do? But I had a full tank of petrol and we weren't going that far. So I said, okay, screw it. So in my heart, I'm having a conversation with my bike, okay? I'm like, please don't behave like this. She doesn't mean anything.
Just this much.
She doesn't mean anything. I mean, I'm just trying to get to know her. There is no romantic interest here, okay? I don't want to date her or any such thing, right? And it flooded and flooded and flooded. It ran well enough for her to never detect a problem. And I'm bleeding gas everywhere, okay? It's leaving petrol on the road type.
Oh my God.
Fortunately, it's wet. So it's okay. It's not like it's slippery or anything. We managed. Went, parked, had a good dinner, left her home. So she walks and she's like, my house is over there. I said, I'm not coming up to there. I'm just going to make sure you go in the gate and then I'm going. And it was a loud bike. So I didn't want to go right up to the house and all this. So she went into her house, started the bike, rode, this is I think on Pedo Road or something like that. So there's a downhill. I start downhill, I reach under the carburetor, bone dry. We haven't done anything, okay? It's not like I took a screwdriver and knocked the float bowl back into place. Nothing. Okay? I come down the hill and now the conversation is, you B, what is wrong with you?
What's your problem?
What's your problem, right? And from there, I was used to live in Thane at that point of time. The heavens just opened. And they stayed open while I got to Thane. And I remember that ride was epic. We didn't slow down for much. It was 11, 12, 1, something like that. There was steam coming off the headlight. So every time you slow down a little bit, you'd see the steam coming off the headlight. I think there was water going everywhere because we were going so fast. And it felt like nothing will happen. Just go. I got you. And I was like, it's a 4 kilometers it was from the office to this restaurant or whatever. 4 kilometers you had to flood.
I'm guessing that relationship definitely didn't go anywhere.
There was no relationship. But the point is, the bike clearly took offense saying, Acha, you're going to make a girl sit there. Okay, we'll see.
Nice. That's interesting. Thankfully, that's not happened.
No, modern bikes apparently don't do that. At least they don't throw tantrums like this anymore. There's no carburetor to throw tantrums. So at least we solved that.
But talking about this, you know what? One of Vanita, my wife, she was talking to Siran, and he was asking her how did we meet or whatever, some stuff like that. She's like, the one condition I had that somebody that I have to be with has to have a motorcycle, and that is, so he's asking her, did you have any other condition? She's like, no, he just had to have a motorcycle. So I was just like, okay, so basically, she married me because I had a bike. So I'm grateful for that. I'm completely grateful.
I'm telling you, bikes are good for you. If you don't have a bike in your life, it's not complete.
Have any of you had a motorcycle and it has helped you?
Yeah, it has. If it is there, it has helped. I guarantee it. Which I can't say for cars.
Cars, you'll have to go really up the ladder for it to get to anywhere interesting. Yeah. And talking about cars, this is, again, we've ended up talking about feelings and how sometimes you can perceive something and learn to work with it. I think one of the things that we end up, I think it's a maybe a early stage imbalance that happens, is that where you want to force yourself and your authority on the machine. I don't think you and I think about the relationship that way at all.
No, in fact, today when I see on social media somebody creates a sentence on the lines of taming the beast, taming this machine, or I tamed, I'm like, that's an adversarial connotation to a very simple relationship. And I don't know why you would think of your own bike or car as an adversary to you. I mean, to me, it is my biggest accomplice, if you're being naughty. It's my biggest partner, and in whatever we do, including in crime, as it were. But to me, I have never thought of a single motorcycle as a contest where it has a will and I have a will and we're trying to see who succeeds. Never. Why would I buy a bike that does that with me?
Yeah. So that's one of the things that I would always think about, and would think about passing on to anybody who's looking at using automobiles in any form and fashion, and to derive satisfaction and pleasure out of it. That it's not really you versus them, as you said, adversarial, or you and them. It's this. If anything, it goes this.
Yeah.
Right? And being able to listen and letting the machine guide you has also been beautiful at times. Like, I'll give you one example, which I remember clearly. Toyota, they ran that one season of the Etios Liva Cup, right? The MMRT, the Chennai racetrack, had just been resurfaced then. And as it turned out, it hadn't been resurfaced all that well for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And the track was effectively like a rally course.
It was super bumpy, no?
It was bumpy. There were chunks of tarmac coming off. So there were gravel sitting.
I remember.
At the edge. So it was unbelievable. Like, you were actually sliding on the track. There were in corners, you would just be. And it was a weird thing that you're on the track and you're having all these moments which would be like rally like. I was just like, yeah, it's okay. And the car's doing this, and which is, I think, the beauty. And a lot of car control, bikes is slightly different in this sense. Car control, you're reading the car so much because the movements can be so pronounced, the angles you get into. It's about feeling calm and feeling at ease with the machine, saying that, okay, I'll follow you. So that whole thing of opposite lock, right? It's like you follow the machine. You're not fighting it. When you start fighting it is when the trouble happens.
Correct.
And that entire race, it was just drifting around corners, and it kept getting worse. It kept getting worse because there was more and more tarmac being chewed up as the cars came around. At the end of it, it was one of the most beautiful times I've had on the track in a car. Because it was just like, okay, let the car do what it wants. You've braked, you've turned, it's sliding. Okay, let it slide. You just go with it, just balance it. And that was it, man. The entire race was that. It was awesome. I loved it.
It's the same on bikes also. When you start to go fast, then you start to slide it here and there a little bit. And I say you slide it, but it happens to you more than you provoke it. You being able to provoke it comes much, much, much later. And the first thing that happens, I think, is that you try to intervene. But all the steering geometry that you read about says the trail's job is to intervene. And it centers your steering. And if it is sliding, it steers into the slide by itself. All you have to do at that point is let it. And I think I was at school. I can't remember whether it was Anand School or CSS. I can't remember. But I was at school and I was at a pace on that bike on that day or whatever, where the first slide started to happen. So now it is sliding. And I know that, okay, at turn 10 or whatever, I will do this and then the bike will have a little bit of a moment. First 2 times, I think I intervened a lot. And then there was like this weird moment where you're completely out of control and the bike's trying to say, stop interfering. I know what to do. Right? It took me 3, 4, 5 laps to say, okay, just let's see if I don't change a thing, what happens. And then this bike would go like this, and then the handlebar would gently turn into the slide. Then everything would get restored, and I was like, okay, I don't have to intervene. And then I really enjoyed my next 2 sessions. Then I asked the instructor, saying, this is happening, is this okay? And he says, no, it's not. It means you're going very slowly. I'm sliding the bike. What do you mean I'm going slowly? He says, no, it shouldn't be sliding there. You should have the throttle open more positively there, so it can't slide there. Sliding means you're wasting force going this way when you could be going that way. To go that way, you have to open the throttle. Oh, So your line is wrong. Oh my God, it was full maths after that. You're turning it at the wrong place, so you have to wait a long time. Then you can't get on the throttle. So obviously it starts to slide, but you can only do 20% throttle. And you found a balance which you're happy about. I'm very good for you. But there should be 45% throttle there. What are you doing? You're wasting time. Oh, okay.
Oh my God. So then the fix came easy?
Yeah, the fix next time was to turn in a little bit later, slow down a lot more for the corner, and then open the throttle early. So when you come to the same place where the slides were, I had more throttle open, more weight transferred to the back, so the rear had more grip to work with, so it wouldn't slide.
Trust the feeling. Trust the
Yeah.
feeling.
And I think what I like about motorcycles is that it is a very complicated dynamic system. Some of it is designed to help you, some of it is counterintuitive, and it sort of hops between the two zones. And you have to work out how do you get the counterintuitive to do what you think it's supposed to, and how do you get the difficult stuff to feel as calm as possible while letting the machine help you as much as possible. And I think jumping between the two worlds is the challenge which I really, really love about motorcycle. It's never fully out of control, but I think you have to bring a lot of your attention, decision making both in sense of I need to do something or I need to let it do something. So that play between that complicated system and your control over it, I think it's a really, really fun part. I'm assuming, I've written very little in the dirt, but I'm assuming that this event horizon on the dirt happens a lot faster for you, and there you have to trust the machine a lot more.
I think dirt, that's an interesting one, because the Etios Leva incident, I mean that race, happened right after I started doing off-road on a regular basis. That
With
time
Giri
was,
and all.
this was way before Giri.
Giri,
This is
okay.
when I got the impulse. So it's a long way back. So that's when I was just going and riding anywhere randomly with the impulse, and it was completely stock back then. I had no tires, no gearing, nothing. It was just go out, drop pressures when you get there, and ride. That was it. So off-road, you have no option but to accept that you have to gently guide the vehicle. There is no top, right? Everything is done more smoothly. It has to be in accordance with what the bike is willing to do. The crashes that I've had, this one time when I crashed, was immediately got to an off-road section. I was like, oh, I'm going to bhagav now. And it was a track going up a hill, and it was rutted because trucks were using it, but it was just a track. And I started on the left, and the path was going up and then kinking to the left. So I was on the inside, as it were. So when I got up towards that kink, I was like, no, I should be on the outside so I can carry this space.
Yes.
And there's that little hump in the middle.
Yes.
So I'm like, no, I'm just going to ride over.
Yes.
Gone. Shoulder was gone. I landed straight on the shoulder. That was my first. Then soon after I did that with my other shoulder.
Oh, that's why they look so balanced, right?
So that was me forcing the bike.
Yeah.
Right? That is where, and off-road, you learn that lesson.
At least you had the courage to do it on an impulse. You should be courageous like me. I did it on a Bullet 350 at More Plane. Why do small things when we can do big things? Remember the track that goes to Debring? Went to Debring, coming back out. I should be in the other rut.
Oh, man.
I'm doing 70 kilometers an hour with saddlebags.
This is a good one. This is a great example, because so many people will be experiencing their first bit of off-road or rough road in Leh, because that's the dream, right? You go up there and then you do all the stuff that you've never done before, dealing with all these things. It will be super helpful if you keep this in mind. You don't force the bike. You sense where it is willing to go and cross that crest so that you're on the other side, or you walk it over. Keep your ego in check.
Or at least slow down, because I'm going 60 kmph down this rut and I'm like, I'm feeling so plugged in. I think the other rut is looking better. Yeah.
Luckily,
I
the
went this
impulse
way,
I
bike
didn't have
went
to
that-
worry about.
Yeah, I went this way, bike went that way. Then lots of Folks tangent tubes came and lots of stuff was bent back into shape. And Enfields being Enfields, nothing really broke. Everything got bent and everything was unbent and given back to me to ride the rest of the trip. But after that, when I'm in a rut and I see the other rut looking very delicious, I'm like, no, don't do that.
The rut is sweeter on the other side. No.
But you remember when we went to Foshokus and we were riding the Shokos? Where you got to ride the Shoko rally bike, right? And we were messing around, right? And we had a ISDE bike, they call it, which is a 150 or a 350 or something like that. It's a small dirt bike. And they said you can go and have a ride experience on this. I don't ride dirt bikes. So I'm like, yeah, okay, we'll see. So I was doing my gingerly thing. And then every time I hit something difficult, I was like, this bike is doing so much. Right? You're like, oh, the tires are gripping. Oh, look at that rock. Oh, the suspension dealt with it. And the more I rode, the more I was just willing to see, I'm going to be the passenger. I'm going to roughly say, I want to go there and then let the bike do that job. And as long as I didn't interfere with it, the Shoko was sweet. And I don't think you can trust a road machine quite like that. Whereas with a dirt bike, with the knobbies, with suspension, the feelings that you get from it because it's narrow and tall and all of that, the amount of work that chassis does and reports to you, saying, I did this for you, I did this for you, I did this for you. I don't think many road bikes come to that level of feedback and being connected in that way.
While dealing with so much. Yeah. No.
Because I think my challenge when I ride off-road is that I want to process it like a road, where I want to be in control of all the nuance of it, right? And on the road and at the track especially, the nuance is so much. And you can put so much effort into getting it all, get your ducks in a row and get exactly a certain plan. I don't think you can do that on dirt. And until I am willing to sort of relax the control on it, I don't think I can go fast in the dirt at all. It's just not possible.
But trust me, man, the dirt only helps the track. There's no two ways about it. Like that first time when we went with the Busa to the track, Vikrant Singh is head of content at Karwale, and we were all riding together. And he was behind me. I think he had his RTR.
Forever he's been riding that RTR.
With the black cloud fairing, So I think he was behind me, and we came back in the pits, and he was like, dude, what are you doing? I said, what happened? He said, I was riding behind you. I said, okay, what? They said, you're leaving darkies everywhere. It's like, what? What do you mean? So he's like, you're sliding the rear everywhere. And I was like, dude, I'm doing nothing. I'm doing nothing at all. I am just riding the bike. The bike is doing everything. And this is, the first time at the track with the Busa. And there was so much skepticism around the Busa being on the track and all of that. And I myself didn't know how it would behave, right? Entire thing was that the bike, what I realized then was, the bike, the way it's been designed, is balancing itself out. It's using the power, but it's providing me the stability that I needed to drive out of the corners, keep it smooth, keep it clean. So what I did after that was that instead of using it in A mode, it was initially in A mode, I dropped it down to B mode. So it cut down the amount of power that it was giving to the rear. So it became even cleaner to ride around the track. But the other side, which I could not, and that is me, and that's partly the machine, the brakes. That feeling, resolving that feeling over there never happened. Because at the end of that, when you come out of the D, the long D, and then there's that kink and the heartbreaking for the right
8.
Whatever. It's a 90 right, and you've come flat out.
You're coming at the end of the back straight, number 8.
So you are coming flat out. And every time you're like, I want to brake late for this, I want to brake late for this. And I'm like, no way, not with those hoses that the Busa has. Every
rubber
time.
hoses, even today.
So every time you're just like, just brake a little bit later. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. So there, the feeling says, don't do it. Basically, you're trying to say, no, I'll do it a little bit more. You did it the last time and all of that. The feeling always was, no, I don't want to do it. And I didn't, because it was just like, it's not worth it.
No, and I think listening to the machine and learning to listen. It's not like all machines speak to you in your native language. Like I remember switching from something to a Michelin Road 4. And I didn't know that bike at all. Like I went into the dealership with whatever tires were on that bike. I think a Scorpion or something, Pirelli. I switched to a Road 4. I came out of the bike and it's like, I need Google Translate to understand what this bike is saying, because it's like it's speaking in French and I don't speak French. And then 2,000 kilometers later, I have more faith in the bike, but I still don't understand what it's saying. So I know it will go around that corner, like there's enough grip, but I don't have any sense of grip from the Road 4. And I managed, I think 12,000 kilometers on the Road 4s. Always with this, it'll do. It'll be okay. Bike's got my back. Switched to Road 5. Now it is speaking my language.
Oh, really?
And specifically, it was the Road 4. The way it returned feedback, I did not understand it.
Oh. I've not used the Road 4 at all.
Similarly, certain Metzlers feel exactly like MRFs. So if you've, like in terms of feedback, right? So if you've ridden a lot of MRFs and then you jump on, for example, a M7RR Metzler tire, you can make a one-to-one connection as to the language it's speaking. Obviously, the grip levels are higher and the feedback levels are better, all that. But it's speaking the same language. So when the MRF says there is grip, the Metzeler also says in the same way that there is grip. There's a difference in the quantum of it, and that's fine. But there's no momentary, oh, I have to recalibrate to this. Whereas Pirellis, for example, are super soft.
Yeah.
And it takes a while to understand how to read this tire. But all of these little nuances give you the... think of it like a world full of, let's say, network jacks in all of these little systems, and you have to jack into each of these systems to be able to read the data that is coming and form the picture of what's really going on. Right? And when the ports are mismatched, for example, with the Road 4, you can't read that data, and therefore your information structure is broken a little bit and you can't fully compute what the bike is actually doing.
So how long did you use the Road 4s?
Fully. I didn't have the luxury of saying, I don't like how this tire is, so throw it and get something
broadly,
new.
I was just trying to understand how many kilometers did they last?
All of these rear tires go in about between 11 and 13. And if it's a really soft tire, 7 on a fast bike. So it didn't do anything unusual. I just never understood it fully.
Okay.
So when you hit the wet patch...
So performance-wise, it was fine.
Yeah. So when you hit a wet patch, you were like, yeah, I know that it has grip. And then I have, over the last 300-400 kilometers, experienced the fact that it has grip in the wet. But do I have a feeling of securely, I know exactly how much more I have left in reserve? No. You have to trust it. Whereas a Road 5, there is no trust required. It tells you exactly what's going on. A Road 6 is even better at it. The Scorpion 2 is a surprisingly good tire in the wet too. They all tell you what's going on.
Okay.
So there are specific combinations of tires and motorcycles that you will really, really enjoy. And hold on to those feelings. They're important.
Find the feeling, trust the feeling.
Yeah.
I think that is that is a good way of putting this out. Yeah.
It's true. It's true. There are days when you wake up and say, today is a good day. And I have a lot of those because I'm a morning person and an optimist. So I have a lot of these good days, right? But when you have that feeling of it's a good day, you generally do have a good day.
Yeah.
And imagine this. I've said this for riding in the rain. There's a whole bunch of people who say, I hate the rain. It is so filthy. It is so dirty. Yeah, but it's a mindset. If the rain hits Kerala on June 1 and your reaction to that is, oh God, here comes the rain and I have to ride in this, you're not going to enjoy riding in the rain. There's just no way to do it. You've already set up a barrier. Right? And I came from the other side because I had this deep-seated insecurity that I was not a smooth rider. And this is my father always telling me that you're a rough driver. And it was in my head that I'm not a smooth motorcyclist.
Okay.
I don't know how smooth works. So I have consciously worked at being smoother and smoother and smoother. And therefore in the rains, to me, I had the opportunity of saying, oh God, it's the rains. I am not even a smooth rider. Oh, I'm going to suck at this. Or I could say, this is going to expose my weaknesses the most, so I can make the most of this learning opportunity, for which I have to ride more. Right? But I'm a road tester. I didn't have a choice. Right? I showed up at MotorInc, they gave me the bikes and said, go ride. And it rains in Mumbai for 3 months and you have to ride in the rain. So I said, okay, let's maximize what we can learn from this. Before ABS, before traction control, but relatively small bikes. I wrote my heart out in the rain and I came to love it because it is that challenge. And you know that when the rain comes, you can see that my excitement is changing. And I'm telling you, my raincoat is the least used raincoat on earth. It's always there in my EDC. I can't remember the last time I took it out consciously.
I also love riding in the rain and driving and also night. But yeah.
Night, I have actually come to the conclusion that I think now it is okay. Back when we started, there were no carriageways, divided lane and all of this. They were anyway unlit. So it's not even like a bus guy who could see you coming had a place to go to give you space to go through. It was all a little bit dicey.
Dicey though, I mean, I don't think there's any two ways about that. Even today, if you were to drive on a normal state highway kind of scenario,
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, it's not. But for me, I grew up in that kind of an environment. Right, we were in the middle of between Mumbai and Pune, right?
Correct.
And that was the normal environment. That's what we grew up looking at.
Those were your roads, as it were.
So somewhere that comfort from there has come. And like you said, I do my things in a very slow, step-by-step process. And in that, I think that is where that instinct built up. Because I took a lot of time spending looking at... So I have different ways of reading the roads, which we've discussed, right? Like I won't use high beams all the time. I'll use low beams, ride according to that, drive according to that, flash when needed, read the road out of that. So this is again the feelings, what all inputs are being taken in for that has become a wide set now. So for me, all of that has actually improved riding and driving.
Yeah.
It might not have been the feeling that I was most comfortable with, but over time it built up into something which became like a okay, this is a little bit there in the background if you need to use it. I mean,
Yeah, and I think if you get used to using less to do more with it, then when you do get more with it, then obviously all of that feels much
yeah.
easier, right? I mean, the reason why, for example, we all from our generation brake well is because we learned to brake when there was no ABS to help you find the limit easily. You had to work towards it.
Yeah. And it was normal that, I mean, in a week you'd have a couple of instances where you lock your brakes.
Yeah, completely
So
normal.
you grew up with the sense of knowing what a lock brake feels like,
Yeah,
how to release it, how to manage yourself in that scenario, how to avoid it.
yeah.
And I remember back at Car India, Bike India, Aspi and me testing an aftermarket ABS. I'm talking about 2005.
Hmm.
It used to be a simple hydraulic valve.
Hmm.
There was nothing, you added nothing, no electronics, nothing. Electronics, there was nothing, right? This had a simple little thing, the machined piece, which used to come and fit onto the caliper, and your brake hose would get attached to that. So it was a simple mechanical ABS. The idea was that, and it would prevent your front wheel from locking. But when you braked, afterwards I was reviewing the section where we were testing, and that, I mean, this is 20 years ago now,
Yeah,
almost,
yeah,
right? It
yeah.
seems like not too long ago, but it was almost 20 years ago where we were testing it. Now it's in the heart of Pune, but back then it was like it's in the middle of nowhere. You can do whatever, right? And I was looking at the tarmac after Aspi did a run, and you could see, like dash like that.
Yeah.
You could see where the wheel locked, released, wheel locked,
Correct.
released.
Yeah.
And it was, even though it prevented the wheel from locking, the braking distance went up, and the entire feel was so bizarre. Like,
Yeah.
it was just like, this is, I mean, I don't know how I'm going to use this.
Yeah.
It was insane.
I just want to talk about the fact that there is a feeling to this, and you have to pay attention to those feelings.
Yeah.
The good feelings and the bad feelings, both.
Find the feelings. Trust the feelings.
Trust the feeling, I think. That is the key.
Trust.
When your heart is saying not today, it's okay. Not today.
And that we've spoken about before for highways and all. And for highways, I think it's, forget highways, like what you're talking about today also, right? It's just that in that moment you feel like rolling off. You're like, it's okay. I don't want to try this. I don't want to make this overtake now. I'll just back off a bit.
When I'm driving a car, especially out on the highway, though, I have like zero aggression left now. Because to me, whatever sums I do at the end about the average speed and the distance traveled and all of that, the aggravation isn't worth it. I can't seem to save more than 30-40 minutes by driving aggressively or not driving aggressively. So I couldn't be bothered.
The highways are the easy part, I feel now. It's the cities that are the challenge.
City, though, I'm a grandmother. Everybody, please come and pass me. And in some cases, pass me as many times as you need to, because somehow I'll be ahead of you anyway. Having not even tried.
Bring out the grandma feeling. Bring out the grandma feeling.
I mean, it's a stereotype, but it's true. I drive like a total grandmother in traffic. Drive, not ride. Drive. I just could not be bothered to go fast.
Yeah.
You know how they used to have this Splendor stereotype of a person who rides a Splendor who would basically roll off from the signal and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and then we are done. And until we have to stop again, it'll stay in fifth and it'll do whatever it needs to and then return 92,000 kilometers per liter, right? I drive like that.
Splendor fourth, fifth car.
Whatever, fourth, huh? No, so in a car I do this and get up to a reasonably high gear and then forget about it. It's okay. We'll get there when we get there.
Right. I wish I could inculcate that feeling.
Yeah, I in a car I'm like, that's my driving style.
I'm honestly getting to a point with driving in the city, like as much, like I don't want to drive in the city anymore.
Yeah.
It just feels like, it's really not worth it. Unless there's some way to just partially sedate yourself and just be like, yeah, I don't give a crap about this and get on with it. Highways like the Pune-Mumbai drive.
That's awesome, man. It's a nice drive.
I enjoy that. Even when we get traffic, I enjoy it now. Because ever since they got the speed cams, everybody's driving in a nice, organized manner. Every now and then you'll have trucks, which are a bit of an issue. But other than that, that drive is awesome. I enjoy that. But in the city, and we spoke about it briefly, about driving skill. The lack of it is just so apparent.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, I think I ride well now. But when I see somebody else riding well, it really makes me happy. I don't want to overtake them anymore.
Dude.
I just want to stay around them and watch it. There was a girl on an Activa, I remember, outside Mumbai airport. You remember that long turn there? And she was basically passing everything. Methodically, one by one, she passed everything. And I think she was on an Activa, and I think I was on something significantly larger for sure. I just didn't have the heart to overtake her. I just wanted to sit there and watch this thing in flow. What I noticed first was white Activa passing something. And then okay, that looked very decisive. What is it? Girl in a burqa, wearing a helmet. Huh, interesting. And then I see this second methodical overtake. And at that point, I'm already calculating, saying that's the gap I would go for. And then I can see the scooter spearing towards that gap. And no brake lights are coming on. The speed's not varying by much. It's just precision.
Controlled.
And I think I was with her till the end of the Santa Cruz flyover. So the next 2.5-3 kilometers. It was just so good to watch. I just didn't bother to overtake her and go anywhere. I just sat back and just watched. This is good skill in being used carefully and cautiously. And she was very quick.
Oh, that sounds lovely, man.
So when I encounter something like this happening in traffic, I forget everything about my skill to overtake. Then I just want to sit and spectate and say, I want to see this.
That's a pleasure to follow somebody driving well. And it's actually not that common. Oh, yeah. Following somebody driving well.
It's awesome.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Especially if you can separate yourself from it. In the sense of, I'm not trying to keep up. I'm not trying to race you. I'm not trying to show you how good I am.
So I'm going to share a recipe that I experienced the other day for somebody when I was following. And it felt so good. It was a luxury car, which in itself, yeah, exactly. When you see somebody in a super expensive, must have been, it was one of the bigger BMW, Mercedes. I think it was a BMW, which is why I was all the more taken aback. He was driving quick. But he was a luxury car that drove classy. That guy was not driving slow. He was making his way through traffic. This is on the expressway. Indicating, rolling off, braking, all giving enough room to the people in front of him, behind him, that it was just smooth movement through the traffic.
Yeah.
And you're not spooking people. You're not looking rushed. It was such a pleasure. So if you want to drive fast, please drive fast. At least use your indicators so that people around you know.
And it's not an indicator thing. Learn how to drive fast. There is a way to do it. There is a way where you can fit into traffic, not piss off everybody inside, and still make progress. And there is a key thing there, is I have a limit to how hard I'm willing to push for progress. You know what I mean?
Say that again.
There's a limit to how hard I'm willing to push for progress.
Okay.
So for example, I ride pretty decently quick through traffic, and I bring all of my skill to bear. I'm not making lists of anything else. I'm just riding. And there is a certain amount of density of traffic where there is a cutoff for me. When it hits that cutoff, I stop trying. Then there is no aggression, no trying, nothing. Then I conform, I fall into the queue, and I sit in the queue. And in that queue, for example, I ride the multistrada with panniers a lot. Then I will try to skip the queue and move to the side and let people go. If I can see a gap approaching that is too narrow for me, but is big enough for everybody else to use, then I'll pull off and I'll say, everybody go through. I mean, the next 30 of you go through. I don't care.
Nice.
That gap is not big enough for my bike to go through. We are okay.
I was just going to say that, you might get a feeling when you're on the highway that everybody who's passing you is looking at you like this.
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, listen to that feeling and move out.
So that was what we really wanted to talk about. There's a feeling when you're riding and driving.
Find it, trust it.
And stick with it.
Good one. Sahi hai.
Enough.
Next time, I have an idea of what we are going to talk about.
And therefore, I will say what Karthik says at this point. Surprise me.
I'll try.
Chalo. 3, 2, 1.
ThisConnect.